Hello, and welcome to the FM podcast. I'm Jen Fritz, and I run Fritz Media, a music publicity and digital marketing firm located in Vancouver, Canada. And this is episode number 27 of the podcast. So the topic of this week's show is release planning and strategy. And joining me on the show is artist manager Jeff Ojeda from Phase Management. Now, Jeff and I had a great discussion about the best ways to plan and release your new album or new single or new video or whatever it is that you're releasing. And there's definitely a lot of great tips if you're an artist with new music but don't know where to start when it comes to releasing it. Well, this is definitely the show for you. We had a really great chat and I hope you enjoy it. Here's my conversation with Jeff Ojeda. Well, hello, Jeff. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing really well. How are you?
I'm doing good. We're recording this on a Friday, so I've got like a little bit of Friday fever, feeling
There you go, yeah.
excited. And you were just telling me that you're going camping in December. Tell me what's going on there, man.
Yeah, it's, my husband and I, we have a camper van. We got one earlier this year just because of, all the travel restrictions and whatnot. And we kind of wanted to just do something that bridged the gap. And so we got a van and we've been just kind of all through BC through the entire year. We've been just having a great time going from place to place and working from, the middle of nowhere, which has been a blessing. But yeah, we're going camping this weekend and we're looking forward to, I think, some snow. So that's going to be a new one for us.
You're crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild, but it's so much fun.
Yeah, it sounds like a fun adventure. I love that. So you and I, we've known each other for a while, I think, on social media. We've interacted there a bit. Have we ever met in real life? I can't.
You know what? That's so weird. I don't know if we have.
I don't think we have.
No, it's strange. I know. I've been following you for years and listening to the podcast. And, first of all, it's awesome to be here and, be a part of this. So thank you for having me on.
Oh, thanks. Or you know what? Flattery will get you everywhere, Jen. That's a great way to start the show. But thank you. Yeah, you have been a big supporter since I started doing the podcast. And I do really, really appreciate it. And I appreciate that you see it for what it is. And it's an educational piece for artists, aside from branding our company as well. But also,
Totally.
that is what it is meant to do. Because this is a hard industry to navigate if you're an independent musician.
Absolutely.
Even if you work in the industry like we do, it can be difficult.
Oh, yeah.
So the topic of this week's show is release planning and strategy. And I thought you'd be a good person to talk to about this since a lot of what you do as a music manager is that, you plan releases for your artists. And this is a part of being a musician that a lot of independent musicians can get hung up on. They want to release their music, whether it's a single or a video or an album, but they don't know where to start. So what do you see as kind of a good jumping off point when artists are planning the release of their music? What's a good place to start, do you think?
Yeah, good question. It's I love strategy and I love this stuff so much. So this is a great conversation to be having. But yeah, I think, more than anything, I think it's critical for an artist before they put any music out or before they're planning for an upcoming release is just really kind of zooming out on their own career. And taking some time to really think of, what is their narrative and how are you going to go and deploy the songs and the releases that you have planned in a way that you can actually, firstly, serve yourself as an artist and as a human and making sure that you're, doing things that are going to touch home, I guess, in a sense for yourself, but also making sure that you're navigating to understand what goals lie ahead of you before you put music out and then positioning, music releases around those moments so that you can really leverage something and start building a little bit of a buzz. I think it's really common for new artists just to put music out, not really have a plan. For myself, with every single that I release, because we're in a very singles-driven climate, I give myself a good 3 months. And that's to plan, what happens before it, how am I pitching it, and then what comes next, right? Because it's really easy to release something and then, 3-4 weeks goes by and then all of a sudden the conversation's stale. And that's, I guess, the biggest sort of hurdle that any new artist is up against is just having such a short shelf life.
Yeah. Definitely.
and few opportunities to kind of, put your name in, on the poster, sort of.
For sure. And I think that, a lot of artists, even come to us and talk to us. In the past, they've just like released their music with no plan, which is just crazy to me. It's so nuts. Or, we'll also have artists come to us like when their album or single is coming out in a week. And it's like, no, you have
Yeah.
to come to us quite a bit in advance, because there is a lot of long lead prep that we have to do, leading up to it. You don't just decide to do it. There's planning, there's things you have to do to make that happen,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another big sort of, in doing mentorship and helping people with realizing their own plans, another big thing that I'm often kind of confronted with is, the idea of spacing, how much space to put in between each song, or, the idea of, say, putting 2 songs out a year. Is that enough content? Is that enough volume to substantiate, the sort of optics and level of career that you want to have? So yeah, spacing is another very critical thing.
And what are your thoughts on spacing? Because we're experimenting with that quite a bit right now at Fritz Media, because it seems like, obviously, like all things in this industry, there's no hard and fast rule to it. But what we're finding is if they're too close together, it's not good. You're not going to get any action. You might get a lot of action on one, the second one's going to die.
Totally.
Because it's just like, I just came to you with this.
Yeah.
And now they're like, oh, and another thing, but I'm not done with this thing.
That's exactly it. And it's giving, a tastemaker, like someone at a DSP, editor, whatever it might be, or even someone that just has a blog that's like, hey, this is cool. Let me, help you out. It's giving them a moment of empowerment as well, and a moment of discovery, because I think that's a critical sort of piece in this whole thing is, we're all in this business because we love music and we love, right. And we love helping artists rise.
Totally.
And so to be given that, as a ticket, in the background, and to say, hey, yeah, I made this move, that's kind of what we're here for. It's we're certainly not here for the money.
Well, that's another discussion, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, that's totally true. Yeah, it's funny that, have you found that with your artists with the spacing? Just to like talk about that a little bit more,
Right.
because I've found it like so intriguing just how artists are like, well, we have this album release and I want to release 2 singles leading up to that. And in their mind, that happens like 1 month apart. And now I'm finding like, it's like, I can't allow you to do that because it's just going to flop.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good thing as a whole, because I think discovering things later is good. I think that if we get to a place where a blogger will review an album 2-3 months after it's come out, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Whereas now I find, when we're pitching, if we don't pitch them in advance, or if they even get it the week of, they don't want it because they feel like it's old news.
Yeah, that's so true.
I don't like that.
No, it sucks. That's just, I guess that's just kind of like the nature of the game is, everyone wants what's current and fresh. And yeah, it's too bad because a lot of great art just kind of slips under the cracks,
Mm-hmm.
or between the cracks, because the idea of coming onto something late is less attractive than being in front of it, I guess. And yeah, that's very true. And I think, with my artists too, it comes down to kind of hard conversations. And thankfully, they've been able to trust me in the way that I've kind of rolled things out. But you really have to look at timing very critically, and the spacing aspect, which I'll get to, is important. But, identifying, first of all, how many products, quote unquote, are you putting out? What does that, like I was saying, like, look at the calendar year, pick your milestones, figure out what the next career moves are going to be, and then position your pawns around those things so that by the time, say, you apply for a festival and you figured out, last year they announced the festival artist on this date. Okay, well, maybe put a song in front of that or just after that so that you have a couple things kind of going bang, bang.
Yeah.
I'm a hand talker, so the people listening, you're missing the show.
I enjoy it. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, and so for spacing for me, the most important thing is, and we've been, in this last year, I think it's been, ever changing. And I think the biggest measurement that an assessment that you need to make as an artist is there enough of a demand to justify grouping moments together? Because the second you put out an album of, say, 5 songs, well, a DSP being, digital streaming platform, they can only focus on one song. So your entire 6 track album ends up being one moment. And, you effectively take everything that you've done to create these songs, produce them, spend money on the record, and you throw it under the bus. And a lot of artists don't really realize that. And so for me, the name of the game for developing talent is data stacking, basically taking a run at something where you have moments leading up to the big event rather than going, bam, here it is, right?
Yes.
And I think just economically that makes sense. And it helps you bust through those sort of invisible thresholds that things like Spotify and stuff kind of want you to get through. And it's just building off of the buzz or success that you might have of, one release and then the second one and then the third, and trying to kind of make the pond ripple a little bit.
Like that's always the plan, right? Like it's like, we'll release 2 or 3 singles, depending how long your rollout time is. And, you hope that the wave builds and gets stronger and stronger as we get to the end. But, that doesn't always happen. There's a lot of reasons why that can happen. But that kind of is how you have to do things these days if you're releasing an album. And as you said, like the reason for that is because like if you release all of the music at once, you're only, nobody cares. The music's out. You're not going to get a lot of playlist play on that. There's so many factors into it.
Yeah, it's almost a disadvantage the second it gets put out, right?
Well, 100% it is.
yeah. Well, because you took something that could have been 6 moments and you made it one, right? And just understanding the way that DSPs work and how they consume products and potentially take a chance on them and put them out to market. You want to make sure that you're building a strong case for them as well, right? And they need to see that you have a cohesive plan and that you're doing it, in a manner that serves their platform. So for an example, to touch on the whole spacing aspect, like something as simple, like the information's right there for us. So if you go to Spotify for artists, you go to Apple Music for artists, I can't remember what the backstage environment is called.
Same idea. It's the same idea.
But they give you, so when you're looking at your data, they give you a 28-day period, a 7-day period, and then 24 hours. So automatically the platform is telling you how it reads information and how you should be reading the information as well. So to me, every 4 weeks is the tightest because 28 days is what they're telling you. And then depending, and for me, it's kind of more an intuition thing, depending on what the look is for the song. Maybe you have a music video, maybe you're going to radio, maybe it needs a bit more breathing room. But, what it comes down to is making sure that you're not putting too much space in between them, because one song might do really great for you, but then if you come up with the song, say 2 or 3 months later, do people still care? It's that tough.
I know it's a fine balance, right? Like it's hard to figure out. It's artist specific, I find too. People are maybe more willing to accept another single from this type of artist, but not from this type of artist. Like I can't figure it out. It's really quite interesting. To speak to what you're saying about, using Spotify for artists and Apple for artists or whatever it's called, that's basically, if you don't know, listeners, that's how you can get on the editorial playlists that both of those platforms have. And that's using their Spotify for artists. It's kind of the back end for you. So you can look at all your data and analytics and all of that. How soon in advance do you recommend that artists do that little pitch to them?
Yeah, good question. They in the back end, when you submit a song through their system, and I'm just talking on Spotify specifically because they have that quick and easy sort of,
it's really easy
editorial. Yeah, it's a great tool. They say don't change anything in the pitch a week prior to the release, but I honestly have a song usually in the bank about 4 to 5 weeks before it's out.
Yeah.
And it's been pitched, and then I go, to my personal relationships at DSPs and then let them know what's coming up. But yeah, usually I would say 4 to 5 weeks out, you want to have the pitch in there and in the system and good to go. Because look, there are 4 editors in Canada, and they have a lot of music to listen to. Well, just Spotify specifically, but any editorial, environment, they have a lot of. They're humans making decisions, which is the great thing. Because good music wins, and it's not just a automated sort of setup. But yeah, they get a lot of volume. So the more time you can buy for yourself, the better chances you are, going to be heard.
I tell artists that all the time, because I think there is like even some kind of language in the back end where it says do it like 7 days before. And artists sometimes think that they can do it 7 days before. And I'm like, no, 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 no. That's like your deadline. Like you need to have it done before that.
Yes, that's critical. You know what? The second you see it pop up, get it done. Don't go to sleep. Get that pitch done, right? Because timing is just critical, and it helps you kind of be at ease in a sense, knowing that it's in the system, and then you can go and start pitching elsewhere to build it.
Totally.
In terms of, I wanted to say, like, back to the timing and strategy sort of aspect, one thing that I often say to anyone I'm doing a consultation with, or my own artist, or whatever it might be, is envision, like, if you have a 6-song EP, let's call it, because that was the example. If you have 6 moments that you're building up towards, look at your release strategy and what songs you put out, just like a set list. You can't play a show and, perform all your big hits right away off the bat and then have a show that kind of dies off and tapers off, right? You want to bring people on a journey, and they need to be, a big moment, an intimate moment. Guide them through the journey of who you are as an artist and why you're putting those songs forward. And I think that's ultimately, from my experience, spending time on really understanding which songs to play first. I think that's where you start to see a really strong return from streaming, because, if you show all your cards right away, there's not much left to buy into after that, right?
No, that's true. I call that blowing the load.
That's a great way to put it.
I know it's very crass, but like sometimes the inclination is to do that, right? To start out strong, but then what happens is you're disappointed with the remaining results, right? Because
absolutely,
it's just like, yay, we came out of the gates with a bang, and look at all of the stuff that happened, but now it's like that was it.
That's it. Yeah, party's over. Go home. Yeah. I just experienced this with my artist Kyle McKearney and the record we put out this year. We started putting out music February 26th, and his album came out October 1st. Yeah. So we effectively, we took over the entire calendar year and put music out all the way through. And it's just, and making sure that, the first song, not a lot of people are going to be on board. And we knew that right away going in. It's, we have to get started somewhere. Brand new artist, first time putting music out in Americana, in that space. And so we were very careful and articulating the plan and making sure, okay, well, we're going to need bigger moments later on. So how do we shuffle and make sure that we're aligning ourselves, firstly, to, with all those goals that we're setting and stuff through the calendar year, how are we making that make sense for the project? Yeah. But then also, how are we continuing to blow people away as the songs come out?
That's just it, right? Hopefully. It's not just, that's always the plan, but you've released enough music to know that best laid plans, right? It doesn't always go the way you want. Totally. And there's a million reasons why that happens. So we were saying, things change so quickly in the industry these days, and there's really not one, set way to do things. What are some, interesting and maybe non-traditional ideas that you've tried with your artist when releasing their music? I'm talking about things like maybe just not doing a digital release on a Friday, just, mix things up a little bit.
How risque. I'm not sure what comes to mind. I mean, it's kind of like you take every day and every week as it comes, and you have those overarching sort of, I often parallel that to micro and macro. What is the big picture of what we're doing? And then what is that we're doing this week to move the needle, right? Mm-hmm. And there's certain things we had, I was managing an alternative kind of pop rock project a few years back. And, we really needed to get heard by this person, Ali Hagendorf at Spotify, and didn't have the direct connection. And she's basically, the person that runs the show there, and especially for alternative rock. And we needed to get her involved. So basically I had the artist create a video that just introduced themselves, personalized and specific to Ali. And it was, it was fun. It was very much their vibe, and it was, kind of badass and cool. And we did it in a way that we knew that she would like it. And so, we were watching her on Twitter, and sounds a little creepy. We're watching her activity and okay, she's on Twitter tweeting right now. Let's go. And so we hit the gas and basically just put that video out, every platform, stories, direct message, just blanketed her with it, and it worked. And she like, responded right away publicly and was like, wow, I heard you guys loud and clear. This record's amazing. Thanks so much for sharing it. And we ended up getting handfuls of playlists as a result of that. And it was, it was a really, really cool moment. So
you got to be real on with that, because that could backfire so quickly too.
Oh yeah.
I just want to say that for artists listening thinking they can do that, you have to really be on the fucking money with that.
It's not something I would recommend for everyone. It happened to work, but yeah, I mean, that's just kind of one way to get creative. I think the biggest thing is just always looking ahead. Like I've always got at least 12 months planned, for every artist, because you need to really, it's critical to really see what those goals are that are gonna take you to another level and anticipate them, right? And there's I guess another quick example is one of the songs that I put out with Kyle on his record that we just put out in September. We knew that Project Wild, which is this big artist development program out in Calgary, we knew that their announcement was happening on X date. And it was a Sunday, and it was on air on the radio station. And basically what we were going for is to be included in top 12, because there are hundreds of applicants, and the top 12 is basically like you're in the game, right?
Yeah.
While you can't plan for that to happen, it ended up happening. But what I did in the background was I set up a song to be released on that Friday. Announcement happened Sunday. I queued up my publicist to go out with a PR press release Tuesday morning. And so basically that press release was saying, Kyle's top 12, we have a new record coming out, pre-save it on Friday. Oh, and also we have a new single coming out. As a result of that, you kind of reverse engineer the hype mechanism of what all that does and front load it so that you can take all of that and leverage it. And so that we ended up getting like Calgary Herald, and then Spotify showed up super big for that single. And yeah, we had a little bit of a moment. And
of course,
was it planned? Yeah, but you don't know when those yeses come in, because it's, I always say it's like 30 no's to 1 yes, but when they start working, it's awesome.
Yeah, you have to be 100% prepared to handle, everything when those opportunities come. Yeah. So if, the Calgary Herald calls, you're ready. Look what I've got, all of this stuff for you. Let's go. And, your publicist can give them all the information. That's a perfect example of like, mapping out your year and just, putting in like the big ticket items and saying, what can we do around this? What can we do around this? Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just the expectation is you're an artist, you're going to put music out. Okay, cool, boring. What else is there that you're doing?
And?
Well, not really, but yeah. But it's like, what else are you, like, what are the things that you need to do, that you need to get in order to build what you're doing, right? And even as something like, in just practical terms, say if, you're a developing artist listening, something as easy as doing a showcase. Well, maybe you release a single just before or the day of or whatever it might be, and anyone that buys a ticket, email them the song ahead of time so they know it at the show. Just try to deconstruct what it is you're doing in a way that, first of all, the fans always have to win. Always invest in your live show, no matter what. Always keep investing in your live show. But create an opportunity where people are going to feel special and feel welcome. And as soon as that starts happening, people feel good energy, right? And if you're in the room and people are like, hey, is this the artist that did that? Yeah, okay, cool, right? And then all of a sudden you're building, naturally building up a buzz. And I think that's just the most important thing, is find those moments. What are those moments that you need? Is it a showcase? Is it, whatever it might be? And then kind of work that into your schedule so it makes sense.
I like all of that. I like everything you're saying. So, something I've noticed in the last couple of years is that music blogs are phasing out from doing premieres, and many artists are actually choosing not to do them as part of their campaigns. I know with our artists, we don't do them on every campaign. It's kind of artist specific. What are your thoughts on premieres? Do you think that, you'd like to see them go? Do you think they're helpful at times?
Yeah, I think they're more helpful for the resume than the actual if you get a really good look, it sounds really cool on paper, but then the reality is like maybe the viewership's not there. Yeah. And maybe you get Billboard, but like
it doesn't do anything.
Did anyone come over and cross over and convert as a fan? Maybe, but was it as much as you would get at a live show opening for an act? Probably not, right? So I think I'm still a fan because it's just another sort of conversation piece if you're, really trying to break through and do something. But
that's how I look at it too. I say to our artists, it's a vanity metric.
Totally. Yes.
If you get an ear milk premiere, it's not going to get you a lot of views on your video, contrary to what you might think, unfortunately. But it is a pretty cool thing to have, that's currency, right? Like,
yeah.
It'll get you in some doors, and it'll change the way some people think about you and your music.
Absolutely. And I honestly think, it's kind of like people like you and I that pay attention to that, not really the fans, right? So if you're posting that, your fans are going to go, oh, cool, someone wrote about them, but they might not understand the weight of that publication within the market or that setting, right? And so I think, it's a great resume piece. I just don't really put too much weight on it because it's a lot of work too, and it's
you're just preaching to the choir. Tell me about it. Right? I'm waiting for them to be phased out so I don't have to friggin' pitch for them anymore. It's such a pain in my ass. Like,
oh, so true.
Yeah, it's so hard to do, like from my end, because I know everybody does it differently, but I won't pitch another outlet till I get a no.
Right.
Because I don't want to be stuck with two people saying yes, and then I'm screwing a relationship because I have to. So it's time consuming, and I don't like it.
Absolutely.
But you know what? It is what it is.
Yeah.
This is the life I've chosen.
You know what? No, and I'm glad you're bringing, because you know what too, and myself, like I like them. They're cool. They're great. But I honestly trust in the publicists that I bring on to call the shots on when it makes sense for that kind of mood, right? Because it's just a lot of work, and you can't. If an artist is very video savvy and they have a lot of content coming out, you also don't want to be asking for a premiere from the same outlets for, say, 4 videos over the next 4 months, right? It's just tired. And yeah, a lot of work, and it's important to be selective with those moments and those looks.
Yeah, it's true. I think they're really useful and helpful for independent artists that are, just starting out, to help kind of build their online presence. And I think that they're helpful with certain artists, if you can get good big look ones, as you said. But I don't know. But again, they don't move the needle.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and it's and there are like certain things, like for an example, getting verified on Instagram, which whatever. They require press. Mm-hmm. So stacking up those looks is important because it helps open the door, to potentially different things. But are there thousands of fans on the other side? Probably not.
Yeah, artists are always surprised by that. Like when they do a premiere or like get press, and they're like, "How come I'm not getting any views on my video?" I'm like, "No, that's not how it works." I'm sorry to be the sad person to tell you this, but that's not actually how it works. Sadly,
yeah,
I wish
unfortunately,
it was. Let me tell you the story of, like, I know artists that have had Pitchfork premieres back when they did premieres, and it didn't even move the needle. So if it doesn't move the needle at Pitchfork, it's
crazy.
Not. that's not how you do it. Just kind of wrapping things up a little bit here. You've probably learned a lot over the years. All of us in the industry have learned a lot by doing and then making mistakes. I'm wondering if there was like something that you were like tried with an artist and were like, well, I'm not going to do that again. Is there, if you don't have anything specific, that's okay. But I just
you know what? I make mistakes all the time. It's
me too.
It's just a part of life, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if there's anything specific or anecdotal. You're always trying to do, as a manager, you're trying to make the best call on employing teams and trying to do things differently. If you're wanting to really go full force with the release, maybe you might hire someone that you haven't hired before, or maybe you're trying to get a look and say, I don't know, the UK, and you hire publicity there. There's definitely But it just happens. And if you're not prepared to have some, missteps, I guess if you want to call it as an artist, then get out of the business.
No, it's true. Yeah.
Because we're all trying here.
Yeah, I guess my point is kind of like, do you think it's important to take big chances, regardless of the fact that you might fail? Like, it is better to try these things.
Yeah, absolutely. It's critical. Yeah, just make an honest assessment of seeing, if you want, for an example, if you want to do something in the UK or the US, like, are you streaming there? Is there anything else happening there that might entice, a publicist? Because at the end of the day, it's kind of like with any agent or publicist scenario, it's what are you bringing to the table that they can then go and sell and leverage, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're not really hot or happening, well, then spending, $2,000, whatever it might be, on a publicist in an outside territory might sound really cool because you're like, yeah, I'm going to make it big, but there's no story.
Yeah.
Right. There's no opportunity to really dig in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've certainly made lots of mistakes that way, but that's just a part of being in music. And I guess with more experience,
but that's how you figure it out. I mean, everything that I've figured out in this industry, and I've been working in it for, almost 20 years, I figured it out by fucking something up, right? So
yeah.
I think that, and you're just like, well, I guess we won't do that again. And then, that's kind of how you learn, right? Like,
absolutely.
You have to just kind of be afraid to try things. I mean, to a point, don't go crazy, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Kind of hash it out and say, what's the worst that can happen? And if the worst that can happen is just say, your publicity campaign doesn't go well, that's fine.
That's fine.
If you want to try it, but yeah.
Yeah, no pointing fingers either if that happens, right? Because it's like, hey, we're all trying to do this thing, And it's like, hey, you can't force people to print something, right? It's like we're all taking shots.
If I could, Jeff,
I know
my job would be so much easier. Yeah, that's a whole other thing, trying to explain to people you're actually paying for the service. So yes, I'm very good at what I do, but I can't guarantee what's going to happen.
You can't force a yes out of anyone, no matter how much you might believe in it. And that's yeah.
You just never know, right? Like, there's sometimes I've done campaigns where I'm like, this is going to be amazing. It's going to go gangbusters. And then it's like dead in the water. And I'm like,
oh, yeah.
Or the other way, something I think isn't going to take off. Like, it's going to be a bit of a grind for me to get somewhere, blows up out of the gates. And I'm like, what?
How did that happen? Yeah. No, it's crazy. And I even just in like this last year of releasing Kyle's record, we set up, we're like, okay, these are the quote unquote singles that we're going to be putting a lot of effort on. And we did that. We the furthest extent that we felt necessary to promote this one song, it ended up being the worst performing song on the record. And some other song ended up taking off and, people loved it. But yeah, it just, and I think that's a really cool thing in music too, is it's like, you don't know everything. No one does.
No.
And you can never learn enough, right? And you can, it's constantly evolving and changing. And even, whatever advice and stuff and release plans and stuff that we talk about now, probably going to be different in 3 months.
That's it. Right? Like, you have to be constantly educating yourself if you're in this industry in any capacity. Like you and I do, like, I'm constantly reading up. And then that information becomes old. And and then you're like, oh, I guess I have to learn again. Oh, God. So much stuff. Anyway, I feel like this is probably a good time for us to move on over to our fresh content segment.
Cool.
Now, every week on the show, we discuss our favorite piece of music content for the week. And we always like to start with the guest. So Jeff,
right on.
What do you got for us?
Fresh yeah, you know what? I'm gonna lean country on this one here. I just got back from the CCMAs.
Yeehaw!
Right? I loved every bit of that trip, and one thing that stuck out, I guess, in terms of the content piece that stuck out is we got to hang and get to know Don Amero.
Oh, awesome.
And then, seeing him, perform at the parties and everything like that. I think his records really stuck with me in the last couple of weeks. Really, really great artist and a good human. And that's what this is all about,
No, he is. Yeah. He's got such a great team behind him too. And I think it's been really incredible to watch how his career has built like over the years, to like see it get to where it is now. I like that. I like watching things from the beginning and go, oh, this has really got some speed. Things I'm not even a part of. I love it.
Totally. Yeah. No, you know what? Lori's amazing. Mike and MDM do an excellent job at pretty well everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's, I definitely, that's something, anyone listening, Don Amero, check out his album. He's great.
He is great. That is a really good tip for us. All right. So my fresh content for the week is super boring and I don't care, but it's the Beatles Get Back documentary on Disney Plus.
Nice.
Because it is, and I mean this, the greatest music documentary that I have ever seen.
Well, I need to
life.
see it now.
And I have watched a lot of music documentaries. It is incredible. I mean, it's on Disney Plus. It's in 3 parts. It was directed by Peter Jackson. It's over 8 hours.
Oh, wow.
Is the part where people are like, oh, I'm not sure. But if you are a music fan, just a music fan. You don't even have to be a Beatles fan, but if you aren't a Beatles fan, you know what is wrong with you, first of all.
Exactly.
But it was everything I like. Just seeing things being created. It's filming them as they're recording their Let It Be album.
Wow.
They haven't, formed together in 3 years, and just seeing all of those, like the relationship, conflicts that you have. And then you get to see things like Paul McCartney, just like all of a sudden coming up with Get Back, one of the greatest songs of all time.
Right on. Okay. I'm going to put that on the
highly
top
recommend
of the
it.
list.
It's on Disney Plus, and it's Get Back, the Beatles documentary. Oh yeah. And then you can talk to me about it after, because there's nothing I like more right now than talking to people who have seen it. I'm like, have you seen it? Have you seen it? Because I'd love to talk about it with you. Please. Let's discuss. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Jeff. Is there anything that you'd like to plug before we get out of here?
Yeah, I guess so. I talked about Kyle in this podcast a couple times, but yeah, check out Kyle McKearney. He's an up and coming new Americana roots kind of traditional country artist, doing some really big things. And this next year is full of surprises that I can't yet talk about, but we've got a lot of really cool things up our sleeve, and new records coming out, and yeah, it's a good time, and I'm really looking forward to the new year. And hey, we have to work on something together.
We do. I was thinking that as we were talking. I was like, who are these other publicists you're working with? No, but definitely, I'd love to do that down the road. And thank you again for coming on the show, and have a good camping trip. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really honored to be a part of this. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, that was a good conversation. I hope you enjoyed it. And thanks again to Jeff for coming on the show. Thanks so much for listening to the FM podcast. If you like the show, please tell your friends and give us a rating and review at Apple Podcasts. The FM podcast is produced by Fritz Media with production assistance from Carla J. If you want to learn more about Fritz Media, check out our website at fritzmedia.ca. And you can follow us on Facebook, we're at Fritz Media, and on Instagram and Twitter at Fritz_media. And if you want to learn more about the podcast, go to thefmpodcast.com. A big thank you to Said the Whale for providing the theme music for the show, and you can find them at saidthewhale.com. Okay, so we're going to go out with our song of the week this week, which is from one of Jeff's artists. This is Kyle McKearney, and the song is Devil Water.
Getting out my mind, all these wanted sounds, no apologies, whiskey therapy, we're just killing time. Devil water, I've been running free, keeps my sanity, drinking ain't no crime, it's my alibi, we're just doing me. Devil water, ooh. got my devil water. Rinse and repeat is my destiny. I don't feel no shame going down in flames, dead on my knees. Devil water. Abandoned by my self-control, I got here on my own. I'm not alone. Stuck inside this carnival, the clouds of kindred soul is where I come home. Devil water, yeah, I got my devil water. Oh. Kerosene taste, abandoned by my self-control. I got here on my own. At least I'm not alone. Stuck inside this carnival, oh, the clouds of kindred souls is where I call my home. Devil
Bye. I'll see you next Tuesday.